Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about a new book that I've been reading called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And this book teaches you how to cultivate meaningful relationships, influence people to your way of thinking, and give some helpful pointers when it comes to needing to criticise and making sure you do that well. So I'm going to share sort of the high-level takeaways and findings that were helpful for me from reading this book. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So topic 1 is really techniques that you can use in handling people. And the book does very much start out with a warning. And that warning essentially says, be very careful and mindful about who you criticise and when. Think, is there another way that I can get my point across that will not result in criticism? And this is important because people take criticism to heart. They see it as a personal attack on them and their reputation, and it's likely to harbour resentment, and that means that the person you're criticising is likely to stop listening to you. And at that point, what's the point in continuing? What's the point in having a conversation? So always watch yourself when you're about to criticise and think, is there another way I can get my point across? That would be lesson number 1. And so, I guess lesson 2 is part of this category of how to influence people to your way of thinking, and a natural reaction to point 1, which is be careful when you criticise. If you would like to point out a development point or an improvement point for an individual, what you can do is you can tie it to their reputation. So for example, if someone at work has been really, really strong with coding and data analysis, and the work they deliver is always high quality and on time, the chart's always well formatted, etc., you can phrase a weakness or a development point or an area they can improve in the context of that. You can say, I'm really impressed by your ability to produce work in a timely fashion to a high standard, and I have no doubt that you will be able to work through this temporary blip and address the data issues moving forward, as you've had a track record of doing. That shows confidence in them. It shows that you're not losing confidence in their ability, and they're more likely to want to prove that they can address this development point because you phrased it as being temporary and something which you think they're more than capable of dealing with. And that person's going to be far more receptive to that, and they're going to be incentivised to address the development point because they want you to maintain that reputation of them. And then category 2 would be on ways that you can make people like you. And that does sound slightly manipulative, but it's more in the context, I guess, at work with colleagues and new acquaintances. How can you get people to sort of see your way of thinking and to ultimately want to spend time with you and like you as a person? What you can do is make your compliments sincere, and there is a fine line, of course, between flattery and a sincere compliment, or I should say a fine line between what's clearly insincere and what's sincere. And often there are numerous ways in which a sincere compliment can be read by the individual as sincere. It could be that you use something fairly specific that I haven't heard before. You say, I really admire your tenacity in the face of challenge, and in the face of challenge. You use an example, for example, or it could be just coming across as really genuine in the way you say it with quite a lot of conviction. Essentially, try and give sincere compliments, don't overuse them, and people will ultimately, therefore, when they receive a compliment, believe it to be true, and that would be more meaningful. Something you've probably noticed in conversations is that people love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about their achievements and past accomplishments, and if you are able to get them talking about themselves and show that you're actively listening to what they're saying, that could be paraphrasing, repeating what they've said, showing that you're an active listener. Watch my previous video on that, on how to listen well actively. If you're able to show that, then they will be more receptive in the conversation, and by talking about themselves and triggering their conversation, they're going to see you as a good conversationalist and someone that's taking interest in them, and that will make them like you more. So category 3, and I think this is a really interesting category, it rests on how to win people over to your way of thinking. And an important lesson from this book is to avoid saying directly, "you are wrong." People do not like to hear that. It shows a complete lack of admission on your part to accept that actually you could be wrong, you could have misinterpreted something incorrectly. It's better to, when you think something's wrong, to say, "I'm not 100% sure if this is correct, but I'm probably wrong. In fact, I'm frequently wrong. Could you help me with this?" Something like that. The admission on your side that you make mistakes and are probably wrong will disarm them, and it will show a respect for the nuance and complexity in an issue, which will make them want to explain, and if they are wrong, will make them want to admit that they're wrong. And so you can get to the bottom if they're wrong or not, without insulting them, without hurting their feelings, and they're going to like you more, because who doesn't like to hear that someone else is aware of the fact they could be wrong? You know, it's a pleasing thing to hear. Lesson 2 within this frame of getting people around to your way of thinking, get them to say yes twice in a row, immediately off the bat in the conversation. If you're able to do that, they're more likely to say yes to future questions you ask and to agree with you. And this is the case because once you're going down a chain of yes responses, the person wants to, be affirmative and agree with you. Whereas obviously if they're saying no to start with, you're setting the conversation off in a disagreeable tone where they're less likely to listen to you. So using that as a way to get them ready to your own thinking is really useful. Try your best in a conversation to see their side from their point of view and to appreciate their perspective and to sympathise with their emotions. If you're able to do that, then they're going to be able to see you as an ally and someone they can trust and someone they can open up to. And who doesn't like to, feel appreciated and understood? People crave that. If you're able to provide them with it, they're more likely to like you and be around to your way of thinking. And the most important lesson for me in this sphere of getting people around to your way of thinking rests on working out what that person wants, telling them what they want and how you think they can get it. We all deal with problems in our lives that we want to be resolved, things we want to achieve, and there are various answers and solutions. It's not always clear which one to go with. If someone is able to give you some advice on a potential solution to that problem, then that person is showing that A, they're understanding that individual situation, but B, that they want to come up with a solution and are proactive about that. The person will appreciate that because it's selfless. They will also appreciate it because it shows that you care and you want their life to be improved in the way that they want. And so that's a really effective way of getting them ready to your own thinking. If you've got a child and the child is smoking and it's really bad for their health, telling them don't smoke child, don't smoke Tim because it will kill you, that's a negative way of approaching it, and it's not going to be that successful for the child. They might be rebellious, they might not want to do it because they're being told they shouldn't do it. If you're able to tie the smoking to the inability of the child to deliver on another goal, like becoming an Olympic runner or something, unless it's unrealistic, but if you're able to tie it to that and say that you're not going to be able to be in the top 5 at school in the 800 metres if you keep smoking, it will affect your lung health and you're able to run as fast. You're going to have to choose one or the other to keep smoking, or you don't have to say that though, it becomes clear. The child then, if that objective is strong enough, will choose purposefully to stop smoking in order to achieve that goal. And you haven't told them to do that, they've worked it out for themselves, which gives them the autonomy and want to do it. But you have, it made it clear to them what they want and how they can get it. So they're more likely to listen to you. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. That's sort of only 8 lessons, split into some categories for reading this book. There are multiple more. They were the most helpful that I found from reading the book. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Obviously feel free to read the book, and yeah, put in the comments any lessons that you thought were helpful. I hope you have a great day.